My name is Madeline Carter, a woman who seemed to have it all, a happy family, a successful husband, and a little daughter. But that night, our 10th wedding anniversary, turned everything into a nightmare I can never forget. Amid the shimmering lights and soft music, Ethan, the man I once trusted the most, stunned the entire banquet hall with a cold insult. Have you ever been betrayed by the one you loved most right in front of hundreds of people? If so, what did you do to rise from that pain? Leave a comment to share your story, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to join me on this journey to reclaim justice and truth in life. My story is far from over, and that night was only the beginning. 10 years ago, I never thought my life would turn out this way. Back then, Ethan Whitmore was an ambitious but utterly failed young man. He was once the founder of a small pharmaceutical startup in Massachusetts, but the company went bankrupt in less than a year. Burdened with debt and pressured by creditors, it seemed he would forever drown in the shadow of failure. My first meeting with Ethan wasn't a romantic story like in the movies. We happened to meet at a medical conference in Boston, where I was working for a cancer research charity. Ethan, with a humble appearance and a face full of ambition, approached me and started talking about the projects he was planning. He spoke sincerely, making me feel he was someone who not only talked but also had vision. Not long after, Ethan accidentally met my father at a golf course. My father, a stern but fair man who always dedicated a lot of time to business relationships. I remember clearly that day, Ethan spent a whole hour talking with him about market expansion plans, the importance of medical research. My father, an experienced businessman, listened attentively. I could see empathy in his eyes, but also a serious judgment. In the end, the Carters, my family, decided to support Ethan with a large investment to help him revive his new company. The terms were confidential, but everyone understood this was not just a business opportunity. Everything seemed balanced on the scale of trust and calculation. Then, we organized a wedding, not the union of two people, but the merging of two lineages, two families with great interests behind. I remember my wedding day. Every detail was meticulously prepared as if I were attending a Boston high society event. A pure white wedding dress, carefully chosen boutonnieres, and solemn blessings from prominent figures in society. Ethan stood beside me, smiling confidently. But gradually I realized his gaze was not only on me, but on a future filled with more calculation. From that day on, Ethan began to change. He was no longer the passionate entrepreneur I once knew. He became mysterious, frequently absent, but still always showed a perfect image in public and before family. My family trusted and invested more in his company, unaware that behind the glittering facade were secrets no one expected. I once believed in a simple love story, a marriage based on sincerity and respect. But in reality, life is always more complicated, and sometimes people are not who we think they are. I started questioning relationships, words, and even the smiles Ethan gave me. In the first years, I tried to maintain everything as best as I could for the family, for our daughter, for my own dignity. But beneath that facade, cracks began to form. I could feel the growing distance in his heart, but I'd never thought it was a sign of a betrayal about to happen. And then, I realized I was not the only player in this game. There were people silently betting on my future, my family's future, and calculations that forced me to painfully awaken. But that is a story for later. For now, I want to tell about the first day I saw the difference in Ethan's eyes. A gaze no longer for me, but for a plan I could never have guessed. The past 2 years were the time I increasingly felt an inexplicable distance in my marriage. Ethan was busier than ever, often absent, and always had a vague answer to all my questions. Or expanding the market? At first I believed him, believed in his dedication and the ambition to grow the company, but gradually that belief started to shake as the gap between us grew wider. The day I learned I could not have more children after complications giving birth to Lily, my heart felt crushed. I once dreamed of a full family with the laughter of many children, but fate seemed not to be on my side. Ethan cared for me, or at least I thought so, until suspicious signs appeared. He no longer shared with me proactively. His calls and messages were cleverly hidden. I clearly remember one rainy night coming home late from a charity meeting. Ethan wasn't there. The penthouse was unusually quiet. The lights were off, only a faint glow from a phone on the bedside table. I didn't intend to touch it, but the phone suddenly lit up when I got close, showing a new message from someone named Sienna. I didn't know who she was, but reading the first line made me choke. "The ultrasound results are great. A boy, Ethan." It felt like everything collapsed before my eyes. I froze in place, stunned and trembling, my hands gripping the phone, though I felt like letting it fall. The man I trusted, the father of my daughter, was having a child with someone else. All the years I tried to keep happiness, the silent sacrifices, suddenly meant nothing. I didn't cry then. I simply remained silent in the dark room, listening to the rain outside the window, feeling each drop cut deep into my heart. I recalled Ethan's claims of business trips, the days he silently ignored my calls, promises never fulfilled. Those things were no longer reasonable excuses, but clues to a cruel truth. I didn't know what to do in that moment between pain and betrayal, but part of me woke up. I couldn't continue living in the darkness of lies, couldn't let my daughter grow up in a house built on fake shells. I began asking questions I had feared before. Who is Ethan? Was our love real? And what awaits ahead? In the following nights, I quietly monitored the messages and calls Ethan tried to hide. I realized Sienna was not just a secret lover, but part of a plan I didn't fully understand yet. The cryptic messages, secret meetings, and especially the changes in how Ethan handled business, forced me to be more alert than ever. I wondered if someone was behind Sienna. Was Ethan being controlled or used for some purpose? And did I have enough strength to face and find the truth? Those questions are not for me, but for anyone who has ever felt betrayed in their own home. That night, after my daughter had fallen into a deep sleep beside me, I sat in the darkness, thinking about everything that had happened and what was yet to come. I was no longer the innocent girl I used to be, unwilling to accept everything passively anymore. I made the decision to break my silence, because the truth is not only something that needs to be known but also the only thing that can free me from this storm. I knew that to get to the bottom of the truth I needed help. After days of struggling alone with pain and doubt, I realized I needed someone outside to help me lift the curtain on the truth. Noah Jameson, a private investigator who had helped my father with complicated cases, was the first person I turned to. I lacked the strength to confront a man who was both my husband and my adversary in a silent war. Someone I had once trusted completely. Noah was not easily swayed by emotions or flowery words. He was a middle-aged man, with salt and pepper hair and sharp eyes like an old fox, having solved many complex cases in the underground worlds of business and law. When I first met him, I brought fragments of an untold story, messages, unanswered questions, and especially the growing suspicion in my heart. We sat in a small cafe on the street amid the noise of life outside, yet the atmosphere inside was strangely calm. I pulled out a thick file folder, documents my father had left before he passed, carefully hidden as if he had foreseen a coming storm. I handed Noah a handwritten note from my father, written in stern but clearly warning handwriting. If Ethan changes after 5 years, investigate Sienna, not just a lover. Noah was silent for a long moment, then nodded. I understand, Madeline. This isn't a simple affair anymore. I will help you get to the root of this. I breathed a sigh of relief because at least now I had a strong ally to walk through the darkness with me. Noah got to work immediately. He infiltrated Ethan's life deeply, from calls, secret meetings to confidential financial transactions. Every day, I received detailed, meticulous reports Noah sent, step by step exposing the layers of lies. After just a few weeks, Noah uncovered a truth even more horrifying than I imagined. Not only secret dates with Sienna, Ethan was quietly transferring shares of the company my family and I had built for years to another person. That person was no stranger. Harper Lang, my personal lawyer, whom I'd trusted and entrusted with most legal matters since my father's death. The betrayal was not only by my husband but also by someone I considered family, my support. Harper Lang, with a cold face who once smiled warmly in meetings, now appeared like a ghost behind all the darkest schemes. Noah even found emails and encrypted documents where Harper and Ethan discussed plans to manipulate shares, seize control of the company, and how Madeline, had to be removed from the CEO position in the most sophisticated way. I recalled working with Harper, the times she advised me to sign documents I didn't fully understand. Back then I'd trusted too much, thinking she was just helping protect my interests. But now, I realized I had become a pawn in a big chess game, and Harper was the opposing player's commander. When I discussed this with Noah, a wave of anger rose in me, but at the same time a stronger determination than ever. Noah, I need clear evidence to bring them to light. It's not enough for me to know. I need to prove the truth. I understand, and I won't stop until you have it all. Day by day, the clues revealed sharpened my awareness and steel. I realized that in life, people don't always fight the obvious enemy in front of them. Sometimes the enemy is right beside you, disguised as the closest person, waiting for the right moment to stab you in the back. I was once an innocent girl who never imagined facing such a complicated conspiracy, but now I had no way back. The investigation had begun, and I knew my next step had to be an uncompromising confrontation. Every morning I woke up, I told myself to be stronger, tougher. Not just for myself, but for my daughter's future. Lily. I would not let anyone take away what my father built, nor let myself be destroyed by this cruel betrayal. The investigation Noah and I started seemed to have uncovered all of Ethan's darkest secrets, but the truth did not stop there. One gloomy afternoon while I was organizing files on my desk, the phone rang. It was Noah. His voice was low, carrying the weight of something huge. Madeline, I found something you might never have suspected. I held my breath, my heart beating louder than the rain outside the window. Noah continued. Ethan, he's not just a cheating husband. He has another secret life in Texas. He was married to a woman named Margot James, and she is now mysteriously missing. Those words thundered in my head. 2 marriages? 2 lives? I couldn't believe my ears. Do you have proof? I asked, trying to keep calm. Noah sent me a series of documents. Marriage certificates, recently deleted emails recovered from servers, and police reports from Texas about Margot's disappearance. All pointed to an Ethan I never knew, a man living a double life, far wiser and more ruthless than the image he built before me. Why would Ethan keep this secret? I wondered silently, but Noah had the answer. He's using the fake marriage to avoid responsibility and hide his past, and the most important thing? He's not alone in this game. Once again, I received a message from Noah, this time even more chilling. Harper Lang, the lawyer I had trusted completely, who had been by my side for 7 years, was actually Ethan's ex-girlfriend. They had planned together to switch ownership contracts, manipulate medical reports to declare I was unfit to care for and raise my daughter. I remembered every time Harper made me sign complex legal documents I never thoroughly read. At that time, I thought it was normal procedure to protect rights and keep my family business running smoothly. But in reality, those were traps cleverly set, prepared to push me out of the game when the right moment came. This deceit not only broke my heart but threatened the future of my daughter. I felt betrayed by the closest people, trapped in a web of conspiracy I couldn't escape without strength and careful preparation. I asked Noah, "What do you think they will do next?" He replied, "Harper is very dangerous, Madeline. She knows every legal loophole and is willing to do anything to protect their plan. She will try to throw me off the trail and may even deliberately harm you and your daughter." Hearing that, my heart ached, but at the same time a fire of determination flared inside me. I could not let them win, could not let my daughter grow up in the shadow of lies and betrayal. I had to do something, prepared to face the coming challenges. I looked into the large mirror in the room and saw a woman who had shed the innocence of the girl I once was. She was a mother, a wife, a leader, ready to stand up and claim justice for herself and her family. I whispered to myself, "Madeline, this is not the end, but the beginning of an uncompromising battle." The air around me seemed to freeze. Every step, every breath was filled with determination and preparation. Ethan and Harper had made a mistake thinking I would easily submit. I would expose everything, show the world their true faces, and I would not stop until the truth was fully revealed. Deep in my soul, I knew I had to be strong not only for myself but also for Lily, the innocent little daughter I had to protect from the remnants of a fake marriage. After discovering the dark truth about Ethan and Harper, I understood I had to act more carefully than ever, not only to protect myself but also for Lily's future. I couldn't let my daughter get caught up in the storm of chaos slowly approaching. So, I made an important decision. Secretly move Lily to live with Aunt Evelyn in Vermont. A peaceful place, far from prying eyes and the troubles of the city. I will always remember that day when Lily looked at me with innocent eyes, not understanding what was happening. I gently told her, "Mom wants you to have a quiet place to study and play where nothing can bother you." She hugged me tightly in a sweet comfort I knew would be a foundation for both of us to get through this difficult phase. While Lily was cared for lovingly in Vermont, I began putting my counterattack plan into motion. Following my father's advice before he passed, I focused on rewriting the entire prenuptial agreement, based on the preliminary will he left. Ethan had signed the original years ago, but I had modified it to include special clauses, including a mutual silence clause, a powerful legal tool designed to limit harmful actions against each other in case of disputes. I don't want to use dry legal terms to describe this, but inside, I understood the hidden power in those pages. They were not signatures or clauses. They were a silent pact between Ethan and me, a weapon I could use to protect the rights I deserved and lock down the schemes he had devised. In addition, I asked Noah to prepare video recordings capturing Ethan secretly meeting and exchanging with Sienna. Using sophisticated tracking devices I had installed long ago, we gathered every undeniable minute to prove Ethan was not only a betrayer, but also a conspirator, stealing the future of both me and my daughter. Each video sent to me tightened my heart but also gave me strength. I knew those images would be sharp weapons in the legal battle ahead. Noah always warned me about the dangers of Harper and Ethan. They wouldn't hesitate to use any means to win, including illegal acts or covert violence. But I was ready. I was no longer a weak girl, I was a Carter woman, holding my father's legacy, and above all, the greatest love for Lily. Day by day, I spent time reading and rereading the contract, consulting lawyers to ensure every detail was perfect. Every word was carefully considered, leaving no loopholes for the opposition to exploit. I also learned to stay calm and patient when hearing rumors and gossip, because I knew silence and thorough preparation were the ultimate strikes. There were times I felt lonely and exhausted, but Lily's image always appeared in my mind, her innocent eyes, pure smile, and her soft words. "Mommy, I love you." That was the priceless motivation for me to move forward, not allowing myself to fall. I told myself that in life there are times when we must do difficult things. Sacrifice what is dear to protect what is more valuable. Hiding Lily from the storm was not abandonment but absolute protection. I would bring her back when everything was peaceful, when I was ready to face new challenges with her. My plan was not only preparation for the legal fight, but also a journey to find myself again. I learned to love myself, to rise from the ruins, and understand that true strength is not never falling, but knowing how to stand stronger each time we stumble. I cannot predict what the future holds, but I know I will not be alone. Beside me are loyal friends, steadfast allies like Noah, and above all, unconditional love for my daughter. The reason I cannot stop fighting, cannot stop believing in the light at the end of the tunnel. In long nights when the city was quiet, I often sat by the window looking out, silently calling Lily's name, praying she would always be safe and happy. And I promised myself that one day soon, I would bring her home, and together we would walk through all these storms to embrace a complete life. The 10-year wedding anniversary gala, the moment everyone thought would be full of laughter and blessings, turned into a cold party where I turned pain into strength and exposed undeniable truth. As the banquet room lights dimmed, every gaze waiting for me with a mix of curiosity and confusion, I stood there, smiling gently, calm, as if ready for everything about to happen. The large screen behind the stage suddenly lit up, and the silent music faded, giving way to a carefully edited video. I looked at every face, from close family to business partners, and every eye seemed frozen when they saw the first scene. Ethan in a dark room, lit only by a desk lamp, speaking to Sienna. His voice was cold, emotionless. She will have nothing but the name, no assets, no shares in the company. Whispers and stunned looks spread throughout the room. No one could believe what they were witnessing. It was not only the promise of a betraying man, but also a ruthless plan to steal the future of me and my daughter. Next, the video switched to a leaked recording. It was a conversation between Ethan and Harper Lang, the lawyer I once trusted the most. In the recording, Harper instructed Ethan on how to manipulate legal documents, forge medical reports, to declare I was unfit to care for and raise my daughter, aiming to reduce my rights and strip my custody in court. Harper's voice was cold, each word cutting into my heart like a sharp blade. We will make sure she loses all evidence, and when the trial happens, everyone will think she's unfit to be a mother. Ethan, you must make sure everything goes according to plan. Sitting there in silence, I watched how those around me reacted. Some turned away, unwilling to face the bitter truth. Others clenched their fists tightly, as if trying to hold back their anger. I knew this was not about exposing a betrayer. It was a warning to anyone who thought they could trample on love and trust so easily. The climax of the presentation was a video clipped from a hospital camera, showing Ethan appearing at Sienna's delivery room just 2 weeks before the gala night. The cold light of the hospital hallway, the hurried footsteps, and Ethan's furtive glances could not hide the truth. While I was enjoying the last days of what seemed like a perfect marriage, he was preparing a new life with another woman, another child. The sound of a sigh and quiet tears rolling down the cheek of a close friend nearby made the atmosphere heavier than ever. I stood up, walked to the center of the room, my eyes cold but full of determination, fixed on Ethan, who was still frozen as the facade he had spent years building collapsed. Tonight is not just our anniversary, I said, my voice deep and firm, but the day the truth is revealed. The shadows have been chased away with no place left to hide. Those words echoed in the room, breaking the tense silence. I knew that from this moment, no one could see Ethan as they once did. The air in the banquet room became suffocatingly heavy when Victor Hale, the chairman of the board, my father's close friend and longtime colleague, stood up. He walked to the podium with a solemn look and sharp eyes, as if ready to deliver an undeniable verdict. The murmurs gradually stopped. All eyes turned to him. "Ladies and gentlemen," his voice rang out, authoritative and commanding, "based on Clause 10.4 of the company charter, left by the late Chairman Thomas Carter, any ethical fraud within the executive board will result in immediate removal of executive rights." He paused, letting the gravity sink into every mind. And with the evidence presented, Ethan Whitmore must face the consequences of this clause. I could feel the vibrations in the room, eyes shifting from surprise to doubt, then gradually to silent agreement. Ethan, once confident and arrogant, now had nowhere to stand. He bowed his head, his eyes vacant as he looked at me, the woman he once scorned and schemed against. I took out from my purse the prenuptial agreement I had carefully prepared, the legally binding contract Ethan had never known about. Every page, every clause was drafted based on my father's preliminary will and advice from trusted lawyers. This contract would invalidate all of Ethan's rights, from company shares to custody over our daughter. Holding the contract in my hand, I felt its weight was not paper, but the power of justice and fairness. I looked directly at Ethan, my voice clear and unwavering. "This is the undeniable truth, Ethan. All your rights are clearly defined in this document, and from this moment you will cease to be the head of this company." Meanwhile, chaos began to spread. Sienna, the woman Ethan had used to cover everything up, sensed the coming storm and hurriedly stood up, eyes panicked. She left the banquet amid whispers and furious looks from the crowd. Not only that, Harper Lang, the lawyer I had trusted most, could not escape the stern stares of board members and attorneys in the room. News about her being investigated by the Massachusetts Bar Association quickly spread, raising questions about professional ethics and betrayal of trust. Positioned in the eye of the storm, I felt the chaos around me but held on to calm and determination. This was the moment I not only reclaimed my rights, but also declared war on anyone who thought they could exploit lies and betrayal for personal gain. The eyes of the guests focused on me, some full of admiration, others filled with surprise. But what I felt most clearly was liberation. Freedom from the pain and deceit I had carried for so long. Soon after the presentation ended, the footsteps of security guards echoed rapidly through the banquet hall. Ethan, still stunned and disoriented, had handcuffs placed on his wrists right in front of all the guests. Charges of corporate asset abuse and forged medical records left him unable to deny. The scene was like a thunderous blow, shattering the image he had worked so hard to build over the years. I moved to the side, observing everything unfold with an unusual calm. Inside, there was no room for hatred or sorrow, only relief and freedom. I had won, not through noisy revenge, but through persistence, truth, and the courage to face the deepest darkness. Immediately after, the company's board quickly convened and officially restored the CEO position to me, the position my father once held, with all pride and responsibility. For the first time, I stepped into his office, the solemn room that had been the center of important decisions, and felt his great presence through every painting, every book, every carefully arranged item. Sitting in that chair, I felt not only the responsibility of a leader but also the duty of a daughter, a mother, a woman who had endured so much to stand here today. I knew the journey ahead would be tough, but this was the time to continue writing my story with all sincerity and determination. At home, in Lily's small room, I picked up a pen and wrote a handwritten letter to my daughter, the one who kept me from falling in the darkest moments. Those words were not only an explanation but a promise. My dear, I am not strong because I never cry. I am strong because I dare to stand up and face every challenge, and because of you, I will never bow to anything. I want you to know that true strength is not never falling, but knowing how to rise every time you fall. Putting the letter down, I felt a new energy flood my soul. I had not only reclaimed justice for myself, but also built a solid foundation for my daughter's future, so she could grow up in truth, love, and respect. Every day after that, I spent more time with Lily, teaching her to love, protect herself, and respect the truth. I wanted her to understand that no matter how many difficulties and challenges life brings, she always has the right to live happily, be respected, and be heard. Lily's small room had transformed from a place to hide sadness into a home filled with laughter and hope. I saw her eyes shine brightly whenever I told stories, or when she shared her little dreams, and I knew that everything I had gone through was worth it. I will never forget the moments standing in the banquet hall, facing cruel truths and judgmental eyes. But those moments helped me understand my own worth, the power of courage and perseverance. Most importantly, I learned that you don't have to call it revenge to be strong. Sometimes strength is simply knowing how to let go, love, and stand up for yourself and those you love most. And from the CEO position, I would continue to build not only the company but also a new life, a new horizon full of promises and opportunities, where truth and justice are always respected, and love is the compass guiding every action. 2 months after everything settled, I took Lily to a small art school on the city's outskirts, where I believed she could freely and comfortably pursue her passions. It wasn't a prestigious or fancy school, but a place where Lily could connect with nature, unleash her creativity, and most importantly, live in a safe environment, far from the hustle and complexity we had endured. On Lily's first day at school, I stood outside the gate, watching her walk into class with a small backpack and a bright smile on her face. In my heart, I prayed she would find joy, confidence, and self-affirmation in her own way. Seeing her so innocent and full of energy, I felt the wounds of the past soften a little. My life now was much calmer. I no longer had to bear the burden of scheming and lies. I didn't boast or need to prove anything to anyone except myself and my daughter. Freedom was not living lavishly but living true to myself, unbound by the ghosts of the past. Work at the company remained busy, but I knew how to balance career and private life. I spent time in meetings, rebuilding the company with the values my father had passed down: honesty, respect, and responsibility. Every step I took was toward the future, where old wounds no longer affected my decisions and growth. One afternoon, I received an invitation from the organizers of the Women Leaders and Justice Seminar, a gathering of leading female entrepreneurs, lawyers, and social activists in the region. They wanted me to speak, to share my story of resilience, the journey through hardship to uphold justice and self. I accepted, not seeking glory, but to send a message that no matter the circumstances, women can be strong and stand firm. On the day of the seminar, I walked onto the stage with a light yet confident heart. The spotlight shone on me, illuminating the path I had chosen, the path no longer shadowed by lies or betrayal, but the light of truth and justice. Before hundreds of attentive eyes, I spoke about the difficult days, the pain of betrayal, but also the strength I found within myself. As I finished, I looked down at the audience, my eyes blending sincerity and resolve. Truth's strength does not lie in words. It lies in how you hold your silence, until you are ready for the whole world to listen. Those words were not only for those facing challenges, but also a reminder of patience, courage, and inner power every woman can find within herself. After the seminar, many came to shake my hand and share their stories with me, creating a chain of empathy and encouragement. I knew my journey was not alone, and every shared story was a small light making this world brighter. A new life had begun, not with noise or loud revenge, but with peace in the soul, with steady steps on the path I chose, the path of truth, love, and hope. I had lived again, not only for myself but for Lily, for family, and for all women fighting for freedom and justice in life. My story, a journey from the darkness of betrayal to the light of rebirth, may not be unique, but I believe each of us has untold stories and unhealed pain. I would love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever faced moments where you had to stand up amid seemingly impossible challenges? What would you do when your trust is broken and the closest person becomes your greatest enemy? Please share your stories and thoughts below in the comments, because sometimes empathy and sharing are the greatest strength to help us move forward. If you enjoy authentic, touching, and powerful stories like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next stories about life and family, where love, resilience, and justice always exist despite all adversity. See you in the next videos.